All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of Called Out. We have two special guests tonight. I'm very excited to introduce both of them. We're going to start with Promoter Faison. And Marcus is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. And really, what we want to do is talk a little bit about the WNBF Worlds that happened on November 20th up in Las Vegas, right? It was a huge show, you guys. It was 275 athletes. That's a big show. Granted, it's a pro amateur show, but these are athletes from all over the world. So, oh, here he is. We have Marcus. I was just introducing, like, kind of what our episode is going to be about tonight. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. I am doing fabulous. How are you? How's the gang doing? Everybody well? You good, Sammy?
Always, always good. A little cold down here in Florida right now. A little cold, but that's okay. We actually we blame Bronwyn for that. She brought the cold down, so that's all right
Yes.
though. So I'm gonna bring in Promoter Faison and Marcus. This is a great chance for you and I. I know I'm not that familiar with the WNBF, so he's actually a promoter. He has a successful show up in North Carolina. I think this is his seventh or eighth year promoting. So this is a chance for us to really pick his brain and learn a little bit about it.
Sure. Sounds like a plan.
Heck yeah. All right. How are you? How are you
Hey,
doing
what's going
tonight?
on, guys? How are you all? Sammy Joe, Marcus, nice to meet you virtually, my friend.
Absolutely. Same. Likewise.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed.
I did tell Marcus a lot of good things about your North Carolina show.
Yeah, so I moved to North Carolina actually from the state of Indiana. I moved here in 2012, and I had my eyes set on being a promoter day one. And I finally had an opportunity to find the right organization, right federation for me. And I was already on the hunt as soon as I got here in North Carolina. And then we started basically promoting in 2015, and we had
Mm-hmm.
our first show in 2016.
Dang, yeah, that's awesome. So you've had a nice run up there. So tell me about the Worlds. Were you impressed with the numbers they brought in this year? Considering some travel is still, a little iffy, 275, almost 300 athletes.
Yeah, the WNBF, they always do a fantastic job with putting on, those world-class events, literally for world-class athletes coming from all over the world. And, like you said, over 200 athletes, I believe over 20 different countries. So it was really a phenomenal event. I was glad they were able to pull that off, given the fact that they had to postpone last year.
Wow, yeah, yeah. So I guess one of the classes, Marcus, you'll appreciate this. One of the classes that stood out to me was the men's pro physique class. There were 34 athletes in that class.
Holy smokes. That's something that you see like I don't know. Last time I've seen that when I was competing in the NPC where you had to make not one, not two, but like three classes. Like that was pretty impressive.
And
To
that
get
is
that many.
exactly what they did. Yeah. So that overall went to Pedro Padilla. So congratulations to him.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
of course, the bikini, pro bikini overall winner went to Bronwyn. So she's going to be our guest a little bit later tonight. Marcus, did you have any questions? Anything
Yeah.
at all you want to know about the WNBF?
So yeah, just me try when I'm a new pro, new
Congratulations to you, by
natural
the
natural
way.
pro. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Not a
When
problem.
I was one of my things that I wanted to do in this initial year was to kind of touch all stages, different across different organizations to see kind of, what was what.
Exactly.
And the WNBF is the only one that I haven't touched yet. I haven't touched any of the WNBF stages. With that said, what does that look like? Competing in the WNBF, I've seen different levels of testing and things like that. What does that look like for the WNBF side of things as far as testing? Because I know a lot of competitors choose the organization, the stage by what that drug test policy looks like.
Sure. So first of all, the WNBF stands for World Natural Bodybuilding Federation, and I think you told me that you were a pro, right, already?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to have to do is become a amateur competitor. So that's the INBF. That's the amateur affiliate of the WNBF. The INBF is the International Natural Bodybuilding Federation. So you have to basically get a INBF membership, and when you get an INBF membership, find an INBF show near you, and then compete in an INBF show. And to compete in an INBF show, you have to adhere to all the guidelines. We
Mm-hmm.
have different criteria that a lot of the different federations have. Obviously, we have a stringent drug policy as well, and you have to make sure you read through all those guidelines. Make sure that you don't um, violate any of those stringent drug policies that we have. And then you have to do a polygraph, and then do your membership, sign up for the show, and you'll be set and ready to go. The other thing about the INBF is we have very stringent guidelines. So specifically, you're a men's pro. You're going to have your hand on your hip at all times. That's one of the things that we do to kind of um, put ourselves in a different spotlight than other federations. We are very stringent on the guidelines in terms of you posing when you're up on stage. So you're going to find yourself really competing against some of the best men's physique competitors here in the US. And then once you do become a pro, you have opportunity to compete against some of the best pros here in the domestic United States. And then if you decide to go to Worlds, you'll be competing against people in over 20 people from over 20 different countries, which is a really nice way to see if your physique can really stand up against those individuals all over the world.
Sure. Nice, man. And it just my question is kind of, what actually made you choose the WNBF to find that spot? Like what gave you like the kickoff and say this is the one that I'm gonna choose. What made you make your mind up?
Yeah, so just to kind of give you a little bit of history about me. So I started competing when I was at Ball State University, right? So I was a collegiate athlete, and it was something that I was looking to do when I was 10 years old. And when I got to Ball State, it gave me a great opportunity to compete as a bodybuilder. And then when I end up finishing my collegiate ranks in bodybuilding, I was looking elsewhere. Of course, just like anybody else, I was looking at the NPC. So I tested out the NPC. And at the time, I believe it was the North American Natural Bodybuilding Federation. And that was the first natural organization that I competed in. And by competing in that federation as an amateur, when I won my pro card, which I did in 2002, I was able to get a WNBF pro card. And so
I understand.
I found myself being on stage for the first time, winning, I believe, in October. And then in 2002, I was on the world stage competing as a WNBF pro. And so I just really fell in love with the process. I knew that it was the oldest, most respected federation around, and I knew they had top level guys. And so when it came time for me to promote, there was really no other question about what organization, what federation I was going to be a part of.
Nice, man. So it sounds like you kind of competed and you found that as a competitors first, competed,
Absolutely.
learned the ropes, and kind of made something out of it. And I like you. I'm a lot like you. I've already been thinking about promotion first, even as an athlete. So you're already thinking about life after competition. That's awesome, man. So
Yeah,
I'm it's glad to know I'm not the only one, and it can be done.
yeah, and so one of the great things about promoting, so my first pro show, once again, was in 2002. The last time I competed on a pro stage, on a stage for that matter, as a WNBF pro, was in 2009. And one of the ways that I wanted to stay interconnected with the sport of bodybuilding is by promoting. I just had to kind of find my bearings about me in terms of what kind of promoter I was going to be, where I wanted to start promoting, and if I really had what it took to be a promoter. And going into year 7, I found out that I do have what it takes.
That's awesome. And that says a lot. I can only imagine, what it's like to promote year in and year out and still stay relevant. So obviously, if you have competitors coming back year after year, there's something that they like about you. There's a lot of things that you have to be doing right, and you're making it past the 5-year mark, right? So
The
you're still
5-year
rolling
mark,
7.
exactly. Yep.
Beautiful.
So
Kudos, man.
I can definitely say one of the advantages to being a promoter is being a athlete first, right? And
Yes.
going to all those different shows. So I was one of those kind of guys. I think the most I've competed in one year was 6 times, right?
Wow.
So, I was going, so at the time I was in Indiana. So I was competing in Indiana. I was going to Kansas City. I was going to Las Vegas. I was going down to, where else did I go? California. I went a lot of different states. And so I knew what it was like to travel, different parts in Indiana. So in and out of those cars, in and out of hotels, polygraph tests, posing suits, communicating and talking to promoters. So I really understood the monotony of what it took, the intricacies that it would take to be a great promoter.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What would you say? So obviously that's all the glamours, right? So what is most challenging? What is the most difficult part about promoting, if anything, that comes to mind?
And that's a really great point. And so one of the conversations I have with competitors all the time, I tell them if I had a choice between promoting and competing, the easier of the two choices would be competing, right? Because there's a lot of things, a lot of little intricacies. And Sammy Joe, you can appreciate this as a former promoter yourself.
I can.
Um, Finding the venue is probably one of the most challenging things that you
Hmm.
have to do, number one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Number two, in finding the venue, you have to explain yourself over and over again about what a bodybuilding show is all about. From there, then you have to find your dream team, right? So your head judge is going to be number one. Rodney Hilaire, he's a promoter in Georgia. He does a really good job. He has the Iron Eagle at the beginning of the spring. He actually kicks off the WNBF every year with this show, the Iron Eagle. Is going to be in March 2022. So that was one of the first things I needed to do, was to find a venue, then to find my head judge. My head judge, Rodney Hilaire, he's helped me over the years find all my judges. Within that time, I've been able to meet and greet a lot of different judges, a lot of pros as well. We've also been able to put on seminars every single year. Obviously, since the pandemic, we've had opportunity to do a lot of Zoom judge workshops. Our vice president of WNBF, Bob Bell, has done a fantastic job with helping us keep those judging clinics going on, just so our judges don't get rusty. Because if we got
important.
competitors coming from all different states, we don't want them to come to a stage where the judging panel is rusty, right?
Sure.
And so
Sure.
then you're talking about finding your host tanner. Tina Fisher's done a fantastic job for us. She's now going into year 5 with us. You talking about finding an expediter.
So
Ricky Evans with the show must go on does a fantastic job for us as well.
while you're talking, I'm going to run a little bit of footage from your 2021 show. I'm going to run
Okay,
a little
cool.
footage, yeah, just so people can see how this all came together this season.
Right.
And what I have here is three athletes that I pulled out and highlighted because I was actually part of your team this year.
Absolutely.
And that's right. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna show what you're talking about. Look at the tan.
Sure.
Look at the lighting. Just look at this venue. Okay, go on. Continue.
And so those are the components there that you have to understand as a promoter. And then the other thing too, as you are looking at the video there, what's the backdrop going to look like? Like your lighting, your staging, the imagery. You want to create that ambiance that every competitor sees or wants to see. You know, after the show's over, you're talking about having memories that you can have for a lifetime. Some of these guys and girls will be on stage for the first time and never
Mhm.
compete ever again. And then some people may
Mm.
be competing and they may look at your show and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to judge this show off of all the other experiences that I've had. And so I know, as a competitor who's been competing since what, 1995, I know what I've seen. I've competed over 30 times. The most I've competed in 1 year is 6 times. And so I know what competitors are expecting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then from that standpoint, next I'm thinking about safety. I'm thinking about the audience, the spectators. So given that overall experience to make those lasting moments, and those are the things that really keeps me going, man. Honestly, the last 2 years putting a bodybuilding show on or a natural physique competition during a pandemic probably was the most challenging thing that I could have done. But it wasn't done alone. I've had some phenomenal promoters from different federations and organizations step right in. The executive branch of the WNBF, our president, Nancy Andrews, Bob Bell, vice president, and Tina, our secretary, they've been very instrumental in helping me put on the best show that I can during a pandemic. So those are coming some of the things that I'll just highlight if you're really thinking about stepping into the promoter ring.
Wow. Now that was a lot of. I appreciate that. That was a
Yeah,
lot of nuggets, a lot of jewels that you just shared, man. That was a whole
absolutely.
platform.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I didn't have to have my pen and pad. I'll just watch this on repeat so I can I can go back and catch it all.
Yeah, and so the competitor that we're looking at now, Kevin Edmonds, he did a really phenomenal job for us. I think you may have competed against him before, and as you know, he is naturally a men's physique competitor.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I like to do is to give opportunities where they may lie. And we were just kind of a guy short to having a pro qualifier for men's bodybuilding. And so I found myself calling all the competitors to see who we could sponsor, because that's one of the things that I also do as a promoter. If it's necessary, we'll sponsor an athlete just to kind of kick them over so they won't have to kick out any additional expense if we deem it necessary in order to have a pro qualifier, because that's what every competitor wants is they want to
Yes.
be competing for something. I mean, of
Yes.
course, they're competing for themselves, their family, but if they can compete for that pro card, that makes it all worthwhile, especially if you got people coming from Florida, from Illinois, from all over different parts of the country. So Kevin was one of those guys that I called, and he obliged us and volunteered to jump on stage. And you see him right there winning. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
And
tell you what,
so,
is this is interesting. I can't make this stuff up, right? So I was literally talking about this guy earlier today, and I go every time I meet him, I always talk about his back. And I know with bodybuilding, you chose the right person because a lot of times, obviously, you got the legs, but a lot of those shows are won from the back. And I tease him all the time and say, "Hey, man, can I borrow your back? Just give me your back for this show." So
yeah,
that's awesome. Congratulations to that to
yeah.
that guy. Really
And
cool.
yeah, and then we have some other athletes that I just want to kind of highlight and talk about. Erin Ferguson. The reason why she's so special, number one, she's just before you talk about her as a competitor, she's just a phenomenal person, right?
Yes.
Um, the unique thing about this year, though, she lost her father during the pandemic, and so this was a very emotional time for her. We had the luxury of having her in our presence for a second year in a row. And, she was there 2020 during the pandemic. She competed and won. And then you see her there in 2021. She looked just as good. And the unique thing about her is she was the only female bodybuilder on stage, but you wouldn't have known based on looking at her and seeing her perform. She's just as happy, and I believe her hometown is down south, and so she relocated to North Carolina. I think she also has some experience down in Florida as well, and so it was just fantastic for her to come here to North Carolina. She's an instructor, I believe, at Wake Tech, and so she had some of her students and some of the faculty members come and see her. But the beautiful thing about her competing in our event 2 years in a row was it gave us a great opportunity to get to know her more as a person. And then it just so happened that a few weeks later, our show was a catalyst to her winning her pro card.
Yes.
And so now she has a WNBF pro card or WNBF pro status
Yes.
as a female or women's bodybuilder and fit body competitor as well.
And
That's
she put it
awesome.
to good use. She actually went to Worlds and
She
she
went to Worlds.
competed. Yeah, there were
Yep.
9 other women on stage with her in women's bodybuilding.
So I guess one of my last questions for you is I know a lot of flagship shows, say like Worlds, for example, a lot of the organizations flagship shows, they will allow other competitors from other organizations who are pros to come in and compete. Does it work the same way with the WNBF, or you have to kind of go through the ranks to be eligible to compete at that flagship show?
And that's a great question. So the WNBF, we are the oldest and most respected organization. We started in the late 80s. The first show, I believe, was in 1990. I believe that was March 17th, 1990, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And 13 bodybuilders were on stage. And at that time, I think it was only 5 years drug free. And as the years progressed, I believe by 1994, we went to 7 years drug free. And then I believe it was recently, within the last 2 to 3 years, it's been 10 years drug free. So as a result of that, we have very stringent guidelines. We really kind of model ourselves as being athlete centered, stringent in drug testing, professionalism, obviously having we like to think we have the best athletes in the world when it comes to natural bodybuilding. And so as a result of that, to answer your question, you do have to go through the ranks of the amateur ranks. So you have to become a member of the INBF, International Natural Bodybuilding Federation, compete in a pro qualifier show. And specifically for you, men's physique, there would need to be 8 amateurs in order to compete for your pro card,
Wow.
to get your pro status. And then once you get your pro status and pass that urinalysis test, then you can go off and compete against some of the best natural bodybuilders in the world.
Wow.
Yep.
All
That's
right.
something. I mean, usually it's 5, but 8. Wow, they're really making you earn it.
Yes, sir.
Making it
Yes,
count.
indeed.
Interesting. Well, man, wow. Well, thank you so much for that grip of
Yes.
information. That was very informative. I can tell that you've done your homework. I can tell that you are, definitely a person who loves the sport, love what they do, and know the organization back and forth. So we really
Absolutely.
appreciate it, man. That's
N-
awesome.
Not a
Yes.
problem.
Yes. Great information. Thank you so much. Now we're
And
going
that's
to,
our poster right there. So just a little plug, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, October 2nd, 2022. Go ahead and get those entries in.
Yes,
yes,
sir.
sir. Now you mentioned that you have some of the best athletes in the world competing on your stages, and that's a perfect segue into our next guest, who is none other than the new W right? I don't know, new WNBF Pro Bikini World Champion, Bronwyn. Hello, hold on. Let's get her off of mute. Hold on. There she is. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yes.
Howdy, howdy.
Let's see.
Hello.
All right.
Yeah.
So So you're at a basketball practice right now, which goes to show we have
Mom
many
did.
hats.
Yes, I am full force back to normal life. Gotta do mom duties. My kids are definitely reminding me my season's over and it's time to get back out there and do my job as mama. So I am multitasking. So I'm here in the car talking to you guys, but
I
we'll make this work.
Yes, yes. So, man, you tell us about this season. I put in the description when I made this. If the people weren't following you this year, they missed out because it was one heck of a season for you.
It was honestly, so first off, it was my longest season ever. Since competing, I've not had this long of a season. I did not have this many shows lined up in this amount of time. So I had to push myself to a whole new level that I've never done, or I didn't know if I could do it. Was it easy? No. There were days that I cried. I have to give props to my family for
Always.
dealing with me because emotions were up and down, but then also my coach. There were a lot of times where I would talk to him crying, like just being exhausted, being frustrated, being confused, not knowing, am I still looking okay? Because for a competitor, all we feel like is we're just getting skinny, we feel like we're losing all our muscle, we're getting worse and worse, and we get in our own head. And a lot of times my coach had to just guide me through it, help me through those emotions, get me back on the grind. And we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And now looking back, like all those tears, all those frustrations, all those days of just getting completely uncomfortable was so worth it. Like this whole journey from start to finish is one of my most memorable seasons ever.
Wow. Wow.
That's awesome. So tell me, how many times did you actually compete this year? I know you talked about the longest season in terms of time, but how many competitions bouts did you do this year?
So I did a total of 7 shows.
Wow, you beat me by one. I did six, and I thought it was a lot. Holy smokes!
And in a time frame of 4 months.
Oh
So
my.
yeah, it was a long season. It was very long.
So one of the interesting things that I want you to touch on is you have been a pro, but this year you dove back into the amateur pool with the mindset
My
of re-qualifying, earning your pro card again.
Yes, and it was mentally tough to accept because at my previous organization I was at the top of the top. I was
Mm-hmm.
world champion, and I gave up that pro status and decided to start all over again. And to be at the top of your game just to start back at the bottom was a little bit of a hard pill to swallow. But I knew it's like a ladder. You're going to get to the top, you're going to have to start over. And I knew that I wasn't necessarily starting over. I was starting at a higher goal, a bigger goal, and a more challenging goal. And so I started at the bottom. I competed against amateurs. I had to do a total of 3 amateur shows
Wow.
before I got my pro card. And as you guys heard with WNBF, there has to be a minimum of 8 girls or guys in your class for you to be able to even get your pro card. So
That
unfortunately, I wasn't able to get my pro card, even though I won overall for my division. I didn't get my pro card because there was only 7 girls. So I just missed it. And it was a little bit of a tough one to take back. Like we were just there, like one girl short. And I won. I could have had my pro card and then get right back into the pro divisions. But at the end of the day, I absolutely respect the fact that WNBF is so strict with their pro rules because they really make sure that you earn that pro card. You know,
Absolutely.
some people were just given a pro card if, you know, even if they were the only one up on stage, or there was only 2 people up on stage, they get a pro card. But with the WNBF, they really make sure that if you're in your pros and you're competing against pros, you're competing against some heavy competition. Like, this is a whole nother ball game. And so for that purpose, I continue to push. And after my 3rd amateur show, I got my new pro card. So woohoo, I did it.
Beautiful.
That's
That's so
awesome.
awesome.
Yep.
What a story, what a ride. And that's
Yeah.
the first thing that came to my mind. Like, wow, it was 8 people. That's when you pack an extra suit and you find a figure girl and say, put this on. You're gonna make 8 today. So, but that's wow, what a journey. And you
Yeah.
didn't stop. You didn't stop until you got it so you can achieve that goal. What a story.
It's really once my mind is made up, it's hard for me to not continue. But there were times where I'm like, this is hard. This is really challenging me. This is pushing me. This is making me realize that I am tougher than I thought I was, but I still have all the emotions. I do, I do cry when things feel overwhelming. I do doubt myself. As much as I'm all for, self-confidence, self-love, all these positive things, I'm still human. So there were times where I really struggled with, the sport is tough. It's tough to sometimes accept the outcomes. And at the end of the day, I have to personally work through my emotions. So I'm going to be sad, then I'm going to get mad, then I'm going to be doubtful. But then that Bronwyn kicks in, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show them. Like, I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm going to get to my goal.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, my hat goes off to you. It
Yes.
takes a certain kind of athlete, a certain mindset, uh, uh, a certain level of humbleness to even, go to the amateur ranks. Not to say that, no disrespect to any of the athletes, but to go from where you came from to go to the amateur ranks. There are people who will absolutely, the buck stops right there. I'm a pro. I'd never get on an amateur stage and so on. But so I say all that to say, hat goes off to you for what you're
Yes.
able to accomplish in a mindset that you happen to have in the drive. It speaks volumes of the love that you have to have for this sport and where you want it to go.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it was um I'm competing now against a lot tougher competition. I knew with the WNBF that their worlds literally is worlds. And to actually experience what I just experienced at Worlds is just confirmation that everything I went through and the decisions I made was 100% the right ones. Like, it was. There's nothing like it. I literally would get to the show and I would see all these uniforms: WNBF United Kingdom, WNBF Spain. There was Egypt. I mean, countries that I'm like, oh my goodness, they're here. It's a whole other level of competition. And the fact that I was able to share, that was my Italy girl. I loved her. Some of
There's
those
Aaron.
some of those competitors I follow now on Instagram, and we've become friends. I've just seen them. Their physiques are so amazing. This was honestly such an amazing experience, and to end my season at the top of the top was it's, now that I'm talking about it again, I'm like, oh yeah, this really did
Talk
happen.
about it. You deserve it. Yes, you should be still
I
soaking it
did
all
win.
in. You're a world champion. It's a lot to
Woo!
talk about, like
That's
a lot to
awesome.
celebrate.
Yes.
Yes.
So
That looked like an incredible show. I am so proud of you. There were actually 29 girls, 29 pro bikini girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, you came out number 1.
It's
that is
and it was the amount of international girls that I don't have an opportunity to compete against other countries on a normal stage and a normal pro show. So the Worlds was really that's the show to see, are you really the best? Like, who really is the best here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is surreal that I was able to do it and to make it to where I am right now. But as exciting as that is, I am humble. I am just a mom living the fit life. One day my kids will look up and be like, "That was my mom." But right
Yes.
now they're like, whatever.
So,
so
so
awesome.
we do have a question from Ken Beerley, and he said, "How is it working with Ryan Sullivan?"
It's working great. Honestly, my coach is a bulldog coach, and that's what I like and what I need to really. Ryan took me from a lower position to a much higher, and there was so many details that I as a competitor never thought of, that between Ryan and then my posing coach Shauna, they really took my physique to another level, and they really smoothed out a lot of rough edges I had, just as a competitor. In natural bodybuilding, a lot of times we're being kind of frowned on, when you compare us to the non-tested federations. People almost think like we're kind of like the joke of the sport in itself. And we are not. We have some amazing athletes that could
Facts.
kick butt in non-tested shows. But my personal preference is natural bodybuilding. That's where my money and my attention goes, because that's what I support. I do not support, drugs or, wanting to put my effort behind that. But Ryan has leveled me up in a way I didn't know I had it. We pushed a lot of tiny things, pushed out of my comfort zone. For those who didn't see me with straight hair, yeah.
You know what? Someone showed me your picture, and I said, "That's not her." Yep, I did. I didn't even know it was you. I'm not even kidding.
I
I'm
was
like,
so
that
nervous.
is her.
It was. And that was something that between me, Ryan, and Shauna, they came up with. Let's shake things up. Let's drop a bomb the last show of the season. And at first I was so nervous. I'm like, what if people don't know it's me? What if they're like, hey,
You had
where's
me
muscles
fooled.
and curls?
Yes, it's straights and curls.
That's exactly what my coach said. He's like, you'll always be muscles and curls, but for this show, we're going straight muscle.
Oh, I love it.
That's
Beautiful.
what we did.
Love
So
it.
I was actually watching the live stream. I was multitasking. I had the live stream up on a side computer, and I was actually doing my own live stream at an event. And I'm like, so it really threw me off because I had a loose eye on the screen, and I was like, I know this is Pro Bikini, but I'm like, where is she?
Everyone was expecting to see some curls, even my family in South Africa, who were fortunate. And I'm so thankful for the WNBF, considering it is international. They were able to stream it. So everyone's
fantastic.
families in other countries were able to see it. So my family in South Africa were watching me live. They knew I won before I could tell them. So, which was a really nice feeling knowing that they watched me. But even they were like, hey, where is she? Where'd she go? So that was a fun bomb, because a lot of people have never seen me with straight hair. Since following me, it's always just been curls.
Yeah, you rocked the stage. Every detail was perfect.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. Would you compete? Now, you might be able to answer this question, Faison. Can she compete internationally now? So if you had the option, would you go overseas to compete? And then now you're the one visiting.
So, yeah, I don't think that is how we do it in this federation.
Okay.
I think she'll have to wait for the competitors to come to her, which is, a blessing. In disguise, right?
Right.
So you basically just compete domestically, and then you're like, okay, international world, bring me what you got. I've already determined that I'm the best here domestically. Show me what you got, right?
And next year it's in California.
Yes,
Los
Los Angeles.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And the WNBF will be celebrating 33 years
Yes, I saw that.
in
That's
bodybuilding
amazing.
excellence. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to you defending your title for sure.
I've got my work cut out for me. I knew that from the moment, even after I won. I looked at some of my fellow competitors, and they're right there. So even though I won, everyone's going for the same dream. Everyone's working just as hard. So I have several girls right behind me, charging for that title. So the work never stops in the sport, which is, I think, one things I absolutely love about it. So a lot of work will be done this year, and we'll see what I can do and what I can bring next year.
Yes.
I do have a question for you as well. Now, one of the advantages to winning worlds is you don't even have to qualify. So typically, let's say if there was a domestic competitor who got second or third to you, they would have to compete in a pro show in order to compete in worlds. As the world's winner in your division, you can just walk on stage and compete. So my question to you is, what is it going to be? Are you going to test the waters, or are you just going to walk on stage and show up
I
next year?
I am not that girl that will just walk up on stage.
I got you.
No. For me personally, I'm such a down-to-earth mom. I have to switch from, and I call it mom mode to me mode.
Got you.
The Bronwyn up on stage is not the mom figure. It's a completely different mindset and attitude. And so, no, I love competing. I've never done a season with less than 4 shows. 4 shows is my minimum I've done in a season. I love competing. I love warming up, really getting my physique ready. And for a show like Worlds, I absolutely have to warm up and be at my absolute best if I was going to defend that again. So I will be gracing some pro stages next year, leading up to Worlds.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I love it. So, yeah, Daryl DeVore said the WNBF pros are more than welcome to compete at the Florida Pro, which, you know, is right down here in our backyard.
Whoops. My car lights.
Oh gosh, she's so funny. I was looking at the wrong screen. That's funny. So one of the questions that we did have from Martin Drake, and I actually I don't even know the answer to this. What was the prize money like at the Worlds?
Great question.
Whoops. There you go. She's back.
I'm back. I was here. Sorry. Was that question for me?
Yeah, it was for you.
So I am not sure, but talk on the town is, I believe it was 3,000, but please do not quote me on this. I think that's what it was, but I'm not 100% sure. So
okay,
don't quote me on that.
Nice. Nice chunk of change.
Man, I now I feel like I don't know, because when I show up for the Worlds, I'm like, all right, I'm counting like, all right, 1,000. How much is? I'm like already counting the check, what place I'm gonna come in. I know what the cash payout is gonna be. That's one less thing to worry about, though. I guess.
You all know in the sport we don't do it for the money. Like there's absolutely no way. This sport, which is a great reminder for all promoters, is this sport. It's competitors literally lose money competing in the sport, and we do it because we love the sport.
Right.
This is, I think people forget that without competitors, there is no bodybuilding. There is no natural bodybuilding. So for me, it's definitely a hobby. I am thankful for my husband who lets me compete, because it is expensive. It's such an expensive sport. But that prize money definitely helps with setting off some cost.
Yes.
Absolutely. My wife's like, are you gonna win? First of all, do you think you're gonna win? Okay, now we can book the flights. No, I'm totally joking. She would like kill me if she.
No, it's that's why most competitors, we just try and see, okay, where can we cut some cost,
Sure.
so that's another thing I'm so thankful with. My coach has been so on top of helping us like cut some costs. So there's certain things we can do ourselves just to save a little bit of money at the end of the day. And it's like little things like that that actually goes a long way. um like things I would never think of, but my coach did. And he mentioned it. And then he teaches me how to do it so that I know how to do it moving forward. So all
Sure.
those things definitely adds up.
I saw that Kent had an interesting question there. He said, "Can WNBF Pro compete outside in other organizations, or is it exclusive to the WNBF?" Yeah, that's
No.
a great
And
question.
so that is one of my big reasons I forewent or forego. What's the correct English word here, people?
We'll
Forewent.
use them both. It's all good.
Yeah, that's one of my main reasons I decided to re-earn my pro card. My previous pro card had me limited, and it became to the point where I was actually stressed out because if I wanted to go compete in a different show, I had to go research everything about that federation, make sure they were following certain rules that my current pro card allowed me to even be in. So it became where it was so stressful that it's almost like you didn't want to compete anywhere because it takes that one show. And what if I made a mistake or I misread something and then all of a sudden I lose it by honest mistake. So I decided, you know what? This sport is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be able to experience it as much as you can. We can't do this, when we're 80, 90. It's not a retirement job. It's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. I love competing. And so with the WNBF, yes, I re-earned my pro card. I'm now pro WNBF, but I can still compete in other federations. And still have my WNBF pro card.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that information. That was a very good clarification there too. So awesome. Richie says, "What do you think about pro orgs who just make it rain trophies with no money prize at all?" Well, we talked about. I don't know if Richie got on late, but Bronwyn was just explaining how we kind of don't do it for the money, but it does help cut a lot of those costs. I know for me personally, I
I mean,
it's
I'm
not a
not
good it's
saying
not a good look. It's not a
it
good look to win a
no.
pro. You win a pro show. I feel like pros should get paid. Period. Make no bones about it.
I mean,
Period.
even if we can make a little bit at the end of your season, if you have a great season and you keep winning most of your shows, and at the end of the day, you come out just even with the amount of money we have to spend. I mean, even that is amazing. If you can walk away with a little bit more, even better. But at this point, yes, we don't make the money. But we do it for so many other reasons, personal reasons. I know I have a lot of personal reasons why I even started bodybuilding that a lot of people, have no idea about why I started it. So there's some people do it for a lot deeper reasons and a lot more meaningful reasons than money.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
But it
definitely
is
agree.
one less thing to worry about. And my wife is way happier when we can cover those costs of the
Yeah.
flights, the hotel stay, the food, the training. So definitely for pay.
I love
For
when the
pay for the
checks
pros.
come. When the
Sure.
checks come in the mail, it definitely is fun.
Absolutely. So
Awesome. Bronwyn, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to see
Thank
more of
you.
you this season. So there's that. There's that. You are going to
There's
be on
that.
TV. So
And
I'm
yes,
excited excited for that because I'm excited for people to know more about your story and your journey. I think it's I
It's
had
very beautiful. Yes, you've been blessed. You were behind the scenes. You
yes.
saw a lot of things that people have no idea what I deal with on a daily basis, or things, my real motivation. And so that will all be coming out here very shortly on national TV. So yeah, my
Yes.
story will be out there.
Yes, yes.
Beautiful.
So, and I'm hoping all of Natural Bodybuilding tunes in and many, many more because I think you are going to inspire a lot of people, which you already do, but
Hope
you
so.
know. So,
And
any,
that's awesome.
yeah, any questions for us before we go?
How do you guys do it? You all are parents too. I can't imagine having to run a podcast or vlogcast with all my kids. You guys do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see that you're at. It sounds like a basketball court. If this show went on, an hour earlier, I'll be on a flag football team. I'm coaching my daughter's flag football team.
That's
So,
awesome.
competitors, we juggle, we make it all fit. Whatever we have to do to make it happen. We love the sport. We love what we do.
I almost
Yes.
think like being a parent has taught me how to be a better competitor, because we have so many responsibilities, so many, we have to be in a routine for our kids, that it's made me such a good competitor. If I had to do this when I was 20 or 21, I don't think I'd be where I am right now. I think I'd be in the bar with friends, like, okay, one night's fine, But as a
Yeah,
parent, this you have a lot more discipline.
it's a
You
great way to
learn a
put it.
lot
Never
more.
thought about it like that, but I like it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Better time management.
yes. But life works out the way it should be. My time is now. I'm a late bloomer. After 3 kids, I found my way.
Awesome.
That's
Aw.
amazing.
Beautiful.
Bronwyn. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody who watched, and thank you guys for dropping some questions. And yeah, this was fun. And I was going to add anything you guys want to add before we sign off.
Well, hey, I appreciate you all inviting me to your platform, allowing us
Yeah.
to come on and speak and talk. So I really appreciate that. This has been fantastic.
And hopefully I will
Yes,
be
and
back up live streaming your show next year.
That is something that we're keeping our fingers crossed. You've done a really fantastic job for us, and we really appreciate you for sure. And Marcus, looking to get you on stage, man.
Hey, man, after hearing this story, it's hard not to even scratch your head and think about it. Uh,
Yeah.
I'll bring a
Marcus,
couple
come
people.
join us.
Right. I'll bring a couple of you with me just in case we clear that 8, right? Like the champ doesn't want to get on stage and I get 6. I'm gonna be pretty upset. I'm gonna bring some people with me.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the
That's how we
factors
do it.
that you'll be happy to know is the men's physique is never disappoint. So
Nice.
come on to the stage, man.
And I know
Make it
he
happen.
mentioned that the posing with the WNBF, even the bikini posing, is different from where I used to be, which is also another challenge. You have to learn to do quarter turns. So in my previous federation, everyone had their strong side pose, where in the WNBF, I had to learn to make my opposite side pose stronger, because I used to never have to pose that way. So there's all these little things that as competitors, we're always looking to get better, be better, do better. And the WNBF definitely pushed me to become so much better than what I was, even in
Absolutely.
little things like a side pose that I used to never hit. So come join us and see what it's all about. You will not be disappointed.
I'll definitely keep that one in mind. It's nice to know that the men's physique doesn't disappoint, so I won't be showing up empty-handed. So
Yes, sir.
So, and we are going to promote this show because it was amazing. Like I had Eric Shelton there, and I had Marianne Cook doing live commentary with me, and they were looking at each other, and they were like, "This is an amazing setup. The lighting, the stage, every detail was taken care of. It was, I know Team Cook is looking to bring athletes to that show next year, so yeah, we're gonna bring it. We're gonna fill up that stage." Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. So I am going to go ahead and sign off. Back to how do we do this whole podcast thing. It's funny because normally like my dog is laying on my feet and my son is peeking through the door, like waving, trying to make me laugh. Oh, it's fun. It's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It just looks like a studio, but no. Always a good time. And next week, hopefully we'll have Chris back and you guys can do your normal called out. I kind of threw a wrench in that this week, but yes.
No wrenches. It's all good.
And Bronwyn, stay in touch. I want to grab a workout with you.
Will do. Yes. Let's do it.
Yes, girl. I'm stepping on the bikini stage, so.
You are?
That's the plan.
Uh-oh.
That's the plan. But we'll see.
Sammy's coming for me.
No.
Called out. That's a called out segment.
That's how we're going to end it right there. Bye,
Boom.
guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
See you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.